The creator stood at this crossroads. His head low, his heart was really heavy. He'd come so far, he'd given so much, but for what? The weight of exhaustion, the weight of failure and doubt pressed on his chest, and he whispered to himself over and over again, maybe it's just time to quit. Before him, two paths stretched out into the distance. The first was wide and inviting, its signpost carved with bold, confident letters, the way out. It promised relief, an escape from the struggle. The path was smooth, it was predictable, it was easy. In the distance, he could see this house waiting for him, sturdy and familiar. The second path was narrow, overgrown, barely even visible. Its signpost was old, almost forgotten. The unknown way is what it read. It twisted into mist, uncertain, unmarked. It didn't promise relief either, only something that he couldn't quite name. He felt drawn to the way out. He fought long enough. Maybe it was time to lay it all down. So he walked. The road was easy beneath his feet, right? Leading him straight to a house labeled the end of the fight. The door before him was solid. It was heavy. Its handle named resignation. He reached out, turned the handle. He stepped inside. The room was quiet, too quiet. The air was still, it was heavy, it was stagnant. The walls were lined with empty frames, each one titled with words like, "What could have been," and "The life that you walked away from." In the center of the room, a single chair sat under a dim light, its cushion worn from so many others who had come before him. The floor beneath him also bore a name, one that sent a shiver down his spine. The room of regret. His breath caught up in his chest. This was what quitting looked like. Not peace, not freedom, just emptiness. His heart pounded. He turned back to the crossroads. His hands shook as he placed one foot onto the unknown way. Every step was uncertain. His footing was uneasy. The path climbed these steep hills, dipped into these dark valleys. He wanted to turn back the whole way. Why am I even doing this? He asked. But then, light. A simple house stood at the end, quiet, humble. Its sign read, "The place beyond despair." The door before him was weathered but strong, its handle named courage. His fingers trembled as he turned the handle and stepped inside. The room was open. The room was alive. A warm breeze stirred the curtains. A fire burned steady in the hearth. The walls weren't lined with empty frames, but with windows looking out into a world that he had never imagined. The air smelled of rain, of earth, of possibility. The floor beneath him also bore a name, the room of redemption. His breath hitched. This was what it felt like to keep going. It wasn't easy. It wasn't predictable, but it was real. And it wasn't too late. There comes a moment in every creator's journey when quitting feels like the only option. Maybe you've been putting in the work, but the results don't match your expectations. Maybe self-doubt has been whispering, "What's the point?" Maybe exhaustion has made the idea of stopping seem merciful. And so you stand at a crossroads. One path tells you to walk away, to convince yourself this was never meant to be. The other path, it's the one that fewer people take. It's a path that says, keep going, even when you don't feel like it. The truth is, every creator has wrestled with the temptation to quit. The difference between those who make it and those who don't isn't talent. It's not luck. It's not even time. It's the choice to keep creating despite the reasons to stop. Today, we're dismantling the lies that make you want to quit and grounding ourselves in the truth that keeps you moving forward. So let's talk about the feeling it's too late. This is the most deceptive lie of all because it's not a fact, it's a feeling. And feelings are not reliable narrators. It feels like you missed your moment. It feels like your time has passed. It feels like you should have started years ago. But here's the thing. Feeling too late is not the same as being too late. Creativity isn't a race, as I've consistently said. It has no expiration date. The only thing that determines whether it's too late is whether you decide to stop. Ask yourself, if I knew for a fact that my best work, my very best work was still ahead of me, would I keep going? Because it is. Now let's talk about the thought, I'm not good enough. Somewhere along the way, you convinced yourself that your work must be perfect to be worth sharing. But creativity is not about being the best. It's about being authentic. If your standard for success is unattainable, you will always feel like you're failing. But if you redefine success as progress, then every attempt, no matter how small, is a win. You don't need to be the best. You just need to keep getting better. Now let's talk about the belief no one cares. It's so easy to think, if no one's watching, why should I keep creating? But the reality is this. Many of the world's most influential creators started in complete obscurity. They created when no one was watching, when no one validated their work, when no one cared until they did. The work that you put in today is an investment in the artist you're becoming. You may not see the return yet, but every piece that you create sharpens your skills, strengthens your voice, and moves you closer to your breakthrough. So keep showing up. Now let's talk about the reality. Creation is hard. Let's be real. Creativity isn't effortless. It's frustrating. It's messy. It's unpredictable. Some days it feels like a river. Other days it's like pulling teeth. But difficulty is not a sign that you should quit. It's a sign that you're in the process of growth. The frustration, that means you're stretching. The discomfort, that means you're leveling up. The struggle, that's proof that you're in the arena fighting for your craft. Would you really trade in all of that progress just because it's hard? Now let's talk about the truth. If you stop, you'll regret it. Quitting might bring temporary relief, but long-term regret will always whisper, what if? What if you had kept going? What if the breakthrough was just ahead? What if you were just one step away from creating something truly great? The future version of you is watching the choice you make today. Will they be grateful that you persisted? Or will they look back wishing that you had pushed through? Quitting is always an option, but so is continuing. And the truth is, every creator who's ever made something meaningful has felt exactly what you're feeling right now. The doubt, the frustration, the exhaustion, the question of whether it's even worth it. But the ones who made it, they didn't quit. And neither should you. So here's my challenge to you. Think about one reason that you've been tempted to quit. Now, write down one reason to keep going. Just one. Speak it into existence. Remind yourself why you started. And if you need someone to tell you not to quit, let this be it right now. Now, go create and don't ever stop.